then going on to 288, how do we sin against our neighbor?
We sin against our neighbor in many ways. Fundamentally, it will be by not respecting that person or that person's function. So it can be, just as we have just said, by not respecting authority. Or it can be in the area of justice, property belonging to another taken unlawfully against the person's will, or it can be in the area of the gift of life, anything done, a menace against life, or the area of speech, lack of honesty, or speech that damages others, even if it is true, or in matters of sex, all exercise of this faculty and matters connected with it against the will of God. The best thing is to take the commandments one by one so that these general principles may be better seen.
Right. And we covered the first three, so the fourth commandment that deals with our neighbor, honor our father, your father and your mother. Honor, not just obey.
Yes, very important. Our fathers and mothers are not general officers commanding in an army where we just obey. We are meant not only to obey our parents, but to love them, to honor them, to cooperate with them, to be grateful for all they have suffered for us, and to realize that they stand for us in God's place. They show us that care. If they are good parents, they will help us to understand the love of God for us. On the other hand, the parents have obligation, which is exactly corresponding to the duty of the children to obey them. Obligation to educate the children, to initiate them into religion and society and life.
And then the fifth commandment, you shall not kill.
Yes, I should also add that the fourth commandment touches all other forms of authority and being under authority in the state, in the church, all of them.
So
it isn't
following the bishops and following those that are in lawful authority.
Yes, the government too. And St. Paul says, all authority comes from God. You are to be obedient to lawful authorities. Those that resist the ordinance of God and purchase to themselves condemnation. So rather serious.
So God does look on authority very seriously then, doesn't he? And so when parents consecrate their family to God, he respects their authority in that consecration, that act.
God does, and we cannot ignore authority set up by God and go unpunished.
Yes.
So it is important. It is part of our religion, in short.
Now the fifth commandment, thou shalt not kill.
Yes, the fifth commandment is God's way of protecting human life, protecting the body, and also protecting the soul. Protecting the body, we are to take care of our body and of the bodies of others. God wants us to serve him, and to serve him observing as far as possible integrity of our body and the bodies of others. It means, therefore, that threats against life or the taking of life itself are the things forbidden by this commandment. Therefore, murder, suicide, abortion, so-called mercy killing, killing elderly people or sick people and considering it to be mercy, euthanasia, whatever name you call it. Excessive use of drugs, drunkenness too, fighting and anger. You can see that they are not all of the same grade, but they are all menaces against life, and some of them take away life itself.
Or even drunkenness or drugs, you're saying, gets into this area, thou shalt not kill.
They do, because drunkenness then first does damage already to some organs in the body and prepares the person for further damage.
And then
drugs, the same.
Now we're sort of living in a death culture today because we're rationalizing the killing of our unborn babies and also the killing of our elderly. And we're just living in this, Mother Teresa was just saying it's a whole atmosphere of death that we're living in today.
It's not a good sign for society. It is a sign of a civilization that is in trouble, that is in decadence. Life is sacred. More so, the life of an innocent unborn baby or an elderly person who is sick. We don't have a right to terminate the life of a person, whether the person is 6 months old or 1 month old, or whether the person is 90 years old. We don't have a right. We must preserve and honor life from its first moment of conception till the moment of natural death.
Well, I know Mother Teresa was saying we're killed almost over 40 million people in a year. She said this is far worse than any war we could ever imagine, this holocaust of death that we're heaping upon ourselves.
It is a pity that for many unborn children, their mother's womb is more dangerous than a war front.
Yes, that's right. And
it's a terrible thing.
Yes, I think now in the area of mercy killing, I know we mentioned this, but so often people are writing their living wills where they say in their own will that they want their life terminated if they have any fatal type of illness. They want to do this themselves. Now that's wrong, isn't it?
It is wrong. We can sympathize with a person who is suffering.
Right.
No amount of suffering gives us a right to terminate our life.
Now, in the area of, when we are, let's take for example, in the area of cancer, once the doctors know that a person is in that state of dying, then they feed them, but they don't have to keep them on these life instruments that keep them going artificially that long. Is that not correct? I mean, once they pass that particular area.
Yeah, I don't think there is obligation to adopt extraordinary means to maintain life. But that's quite another matter from taking positive means to terminate life.
Right. Then in the area of scandal, in St. Matthew chapter 18, it says, anyone who welcomes a little child like this in my name welcomes me, but anyone who is an obstacle to bring down one of these little ones who have faith in me would be better drowned in the depths of the sea with a great millstone around his neck. So in another part of Scripture, fear those more that can kill the soul than can kill the body. And we have that happening today in our schools and, frankly, in our television and our media, and this is what's permeating and attacking families today.
Yes. It is important to say it clearly that scandal is one of the sins forbidden by the 5th commandment. That means it is doing harm to the soul or killing it altogether. Scandal is a bad action which a person does and it leads another person to sin or it tempts another person. It may not even be a totally bad action for the one who does it, but it has the appearance of a bad action. Or in any case, it leads others to sin.
Right.
So whatever a person does that leads others to sin, and there was not sufficiently balanced reason for doing it. I say that because the theologians have to distinguish between people who are so weak that anything at all becomes a temptation for them. Right. It is more they who are guilty. Right. It is called scandal of the weak. That is an action which would not really lead most people into temptation or sin. But because this person is extra weak, everything it becomes a temptation for that person.
But we have to be so careful, like you say, of what we say and what we do, and particularly what our children watch on television, because this is forming them and scandalizing them.
Yes, Christ has used very harsh words for those who mislead others. He said it is better for them that a big stone be hung around their neck and they should be drowned in the depth of the sea. And this is the Son of God who is meek and humble of heart.
That's right.
So, and he knows what he is saying. It means it is a very serious matter. That's what it means.
Right.
Anybody scandalizing others, it can be by television, it can be newspapers, it can be cinema, it can be video, it can be a talk, it can be action in public, which leads others into sin. It can be a few passing remarks, it can be a teacher, it can be parents, it can be friends, anyone at all. It is our duty to help our brothers and sisters towards God, not to lead them away from God.
And I think this, when we talk about the sin of scandal, even in our schools, so often people are watering down the devotion to the Mother of God, and this is a scandal. I mean, where they say, well, you don't have to honor Mary, the Mother of God. That's, you're only obligated through Scriptures to honor Jesus Christ, the only mediator with the Father. And this is a scandal to Catholics.
And if it is a teacher that is misleading the students in that way, it becomes even more serious.
That's right.
Because the work of a teacher, for which the teacher is paid, is to lead them upwards, not downwards.
Right. And I think this is even what Our Lady asked for at Fatima, the reparation for the sins that offend the Immaculate Heart of Mary. We have a whole devotion here. But the Holy Father leads the first Saturday Rosary, and these are in reparation for the sins that offend the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And so many people are just playing down true devotion to the Mother of God. And this is so scandalous. Now, we were talking about some other people that were in the evangelicals, and the others were drawing Catholics away from their faith. And one of the ways of showing that they're really born again is to burn the images of the Blessed Virgin Mary. This is being done in the Philippines and South and Central America.
Shocking.
Yeah, and this is...
I would like to ask such people, whom exactly are you serving by that sort of thing?
Right.
And what exactly are you going to answer Christ when you come for judgment?
Then, Your Eminence, as we go into the commandments, the 6th to the 9th commandment, you shall not commit adultery, and you shall not covet your neighbor's wife.
Yes, these two commandments are meant to protect marriage and the family and the origins of life. It is God himself who made marriage and the family. It is the Creator who arranged that when a child will come into this world, that child will have a father and a mother. If God wanted, he could have created all of us, each of us, one by one, without necessity for parents. He has decided otherwise. That action, therefore, by which a child gets conceived, is a rather serious matter. It isn't we who arranged it, it's God who arranged it. And God's plan is that that action has its place between husband and wife in a properly constituted marriage. That is where that action has its place. It has no place anywhere else. Therefore, that action has no place at all with reference to people who are not married. With reference to those who are married, that action has place only between the husband and the wife. Full stop. Anybody else introduced into that action, it means it goes against God's plan. Unless we look at it from point of view of God's plan, we won't get the picture at all. So that what this commandment is saying positively, these two commandments, they are saying, observe God's plan for the origins of human life and for love between husband and wife and the full expression of that love. Observe God's plan for that. That's what they are saying positively.
Yes.
Negatively, they are saying, don't go against it. And what the commandment 6 says, you will not commit adultery, taking the highest evil in that area. But there are other evils, of course, because each commandment doesn't go listing all the sins that can be committed. Like 5th commandment simply said, thou shalt not kill, full stop. But under that then, it includes the whole family of sins, which the children of Adam and Eve can invent. So it means, therefore, any exercise of the sexual genital faculty outside husband and wife relationship That's what the 6th commandment says, is against the will of God. And the 9th commandment is saying, don't even think to do it. So the 9th commandment is in the area of thought or plan. And the 6th commandment is in the area of action. There is no need for us to mention all the actions. There are as many actions as there are people who are going against God's will. Whether it is two married, a married person and unmarried, or two unmarried people, or two people who want to marry, but they are not yet married. And therefore, if they do that action, is a mortal sin, even if they are going to marry the day after, they are not yet married. So, if they do that action, they are simply committing a mortal sin. It is as simple as that. Or whether people commit sin alone or by touching or whatever form, we don't need to go into all those forms. It is whichever way people seek this pleasure, which is not within the context of a married person and the wife.
So really all sins of purity are mortal sins, really, subjectively. Against purity are mortal sins.
The theologians say that in this matter, the actual matter is rather serious. So that if we consider only the thing itself, it will often be material for grave sin.
Yes.
There may be other reasons why in a particular case there's no grave sin. Suppose it is a thought.
Yes.
It comes into the person's mind, and such thoughts will, even the holiest of people. But after some time, the person becomes aware of it. There is no sin up to that moment. When the person becomes aware, that's then when moral action begins. Does the person approve it? Does the person reject it? Does the person toy with it, not knowing exactly whether the person has rejected or accepted? You see now where we may not be talking of grave sin, because there are so many possibilities in human action.
Yeah.
But if the person would welcome it in full, then it would be a mortal sin. The same you would apply to touching and so on. Then obviously, when it is a question of the full relationship between a man and a woman, it is already a grave matter in itself. And the only thing that could prevent it from being a mortal sin, let's say for the woman, is suppose she was tied hand and foot and could not resist and 4 people held her down. Not the case of one woman who would just say that she was raped, but she really consented. It's just that for certain reasons she consented. I do not say that every case is like that, but some say they were forced. But in their heart of hearts, they know they could have been Saint Maria Goretti, but they did not want to be. That is, they did not want to suffer any inconvenience.
Yes. So that would have to be between them and God if that was a mortal sin or not. If they
That's
had
between them and God. We
Right.
don't have to go into all that. There is no need.
But the sins of touching are mortal sins. If they're
Again, the principles have to be applied carefully. What is the intention of the individual? What is the extent of it? What is the awareness of the individual? Up to what point did the individual become aware?
Right.
What action did the individual take? All that has to be considered. Was that individual fully awake? Was that individual fully in control of all that has to be weighed? Sometimes the individual may not even be sure whether it was a mortal sin or not. Then the person should simply confess it and say, I am not sure whether it was grave or not.
I think the watching impure movies and in magazines, and you become what you think about. And if you start allowing that, then you're toying with serious sin.
All theologians tell us that we should not put ourselves into occasions of sin. A person does not know how to swim. The person has no business dancing at the edge of a river. Because you are putting yourself in danger of falling into the river. Or you fall in and hope that the people around will save you before the critical moment of drowning.
That's right.
So the scripture says, he who loves the danger will perish in it. The assessment of responsibility will be between the person and God.
For your eminence, the 7th commandment, you shall not steal, and the 10th commandment, you shall not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. What are your insights there?
Very fundamental. These two commandments teach us to respect what belongs to our neighbor, property, and then not even to desire it. Justice demands that what is mine be mine, what is yours be yours, that I don't take what is yours against your will. This commandment wants to safeguard that. It therefore forbids such actions as stealing. And stealing can take many forms, from violent stealing to those who embezzle money, company money, government money. Cheating can take as many forms as there are clever people who want to cheat. I don't need to name all the forms of cheating. Deliberate damage to the property of another. Deliberate. Also refusing to pay people what is due to them, whether in the form of wages or a loan I got from someone and now I refuse to pay it. It also includes the one who found a lost article and made no reasonable effort to find the owner, but simply took it. That also is unjust. It includes also things like wasting the time of others or wasting the property or money of others, especially people who are employed. They work little, but they want full pay.
So wasting time is a sin against those commandments.
Yes, dishonest workers know how to do it. They know how to dodge and hedge and appear to be working, but they are not really working. But they generally want their full salary.
That's right.
It's rare the worker who at the end of the month would say, I don't have right to my full salary because I was dishonest for 2 days this month.
How many people do that?
It would be interesting
Right.
to see how many do that.
Yes.
But this commandment is asking us to be sensitive to what belongs to another and to be fair. And we could continue talking. It also covers such areas as the father of a family gambling away much of the family money so that he cannot now fulfill his duties to his wife and children, or drinking and spending much money on that, or smoking. Much of the money that should have been used on the children goes up in smoke. You can see that all these things are not at the same level.
Right.
It can also include jealousy and the one who wants the property of another and who is angry that the other one is prosperous. He has not taken the property, but he is very unhappy that the other one is doing well. That's what the 10th commandment says. Please, don't envy that person. If that one is doing well, be happy. Don't be unhappy.
Yes.
That's what this commandment is about.
So you can be poor and still commit the sin against avarice or this.
Yes, there are some poor people who are very, very greedy. They are poor, but they are most possessive and grasping, and they desire without end. Their heart is on riches, but they don't possess. They wish that wishes were horses and they would ride. But they are not able. But when they are able to cheat or steal, they do it. So we should watch that. Christ has told us that our greatness does not consist in what we possess. I must, however, add that those who are rich also do have obligations. Even if they acquired the whole thing honestly,
Yes.
they have obligations towards the have-nots, the poor. This can apply to individuals, this can apply to countries, because there are what are called the social obligations of the rich. The goods of this world are destined by God for all. No one person should so acquire them as to knock out everybody else, so that he becomes an oasis of plenty in a desert of misery. He must, or she, must ask self some searching questions. The social doctrine of the church comes into such matters, but we can't go into all of them today.
But I think it's true. When we do acquire wealth, God has allowed us, and we have an obligation to be good stewards. And so often, maybe wealthy people give money away and they feel good, but they have to really discern and make sure that money that's being given away is really going to serve the church in the best way, and not just give it to people they like.
Yes,
You know.
or serve the poor.
You're right.
And not just handouts.
Right.
Better still, if they can help the poor, to help themselves.
That's right.
So that the poor would get out of that situation of having to beg.
That's right. Well, Your Eminence, in going into the eighth commandment now, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbors. So hurting reputations is a serious sin, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. Our good name is more precious to us than money, property. We can buy another car. We can build another house. But when our good name has been damaged, it is not easy to get it repaired or restored. The eighth commandment is telling us, first of all, tell the truth. Be honest in speech. Therefore, do not tell a lie. Say it as you see it, as you think it. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. That's the first injunction.
Right.
Honesty in speech. But also to safeguard the name of another, so that it isn't always correct to say everything you know. Sometimes we know something about someone, but we are bound to keep it secret. For example, a doctor knows a certain disease someone is suffering. The doctor is not free to broadcast it. A lawyer, information gained from client. The lawyer has professional obligations. I may, by accident, have known the defect of someone, even if that person actually committed that fault. But everyone does not know. If I tell everyone, I do harm to that person. That is also a sin. We must therefore watch that. The best rule is, how would you want others to treat you in matters of your own weaknesses? Then treat others like that. When therefore a person says what is true of another, but it was not necessary to say it, and it has done positive harm, we call it detraction. But when a person says what is false about another, we call that one calumny. Both of them are to be avoided.
That's right. So something, even if you see a flaw in a person or a fault, unless it's going to be hurting someone else, to hurt that person's reputation and make it public is really a serious sin, because that reputation is precious to that person.
Yes, you have given a necessary condition, unless, because sometimes it is necessary, maybe that person because of the person's position, or because if it is not made known to this or that person, it will do greater harm to those other people. Those are very precise cases, and they do happen. But for most people who talk evil of others, it is not that at all.
No,
it is simply that they seem to use as recreation the cutting to pieces of the reputation of another. Some people's tongues are sharper than razor blades.
That's true.
Some people prefer razor blades with which you cut off their entire hair than the tongues of other people.
Oh, I think it's It's true, and we so flippantly do this with others. We judge, we prejudge, and we have to, I think, just come back again on ourselves and understand that God is going to judge us the way we judge others.
Yes.
And if we are hurting other reputations, this is going to be accountable before the throne of God. But I think one thing is important, though, to let people in authority know if there's something wrong. And again, that's important. If one of the children see one of the brothers or sisters doing something wrong, they should let mom and dad know. That's not scandal. That's just letting authority know.
Oh, certainly that is not scandal. Indeed,
Right.
at times they are bound to
Right.
inform. They will inform with truth and with charity.
Right.
They are not intending to do harm, but to help.
Right.
To help the one that is making a mistake and to help others lest they copy. So they are doing a good act.
Right. So letting those in authority know, whether it be in a spiritual association or a company, whatever, is important, because then they can exercise that authority properly.
It is important.
Yes.
Because if you see someone who is planning to burn the family house,
Right.
and you say nothing, and the person burns the house, you share in the sin. If you see someone who is planning to kill another, you do not inform, including the police, you share in the sin. Of course. If you see a child doing wrong, you don't tell the parents, you don't tell the teacher, or those who are looking after the association, maybe a religious family, then you share in the sin, a sin of omission, because you didn't do what you should have done. It is like seeing a person coming to burn a house and you just sit and do nothing. I need also to add that reparation is necessary. If a person damages the reputation of another and later repents and says, I want forgiveness, it will be necessary to repair the good name which the person damaged.
Yes.
How will you do it? Well, you know how you damaged it.
Yeah, right. That's
Well, it's not I who helped you to damage. So you will have now, among those you informed before, find a way to let them know what I told you is not true. You can see it's more difficult when what you said is true.
Yes.
You cannot now tell a lie and say it is not true. But at least you can say good things about that person which are true.
Yes.
It is just like one who steals another person's property. It's not enough to go to confession and just say, I stole a bicycle
Right.
of another. Oh yes, you stole a bicycle. Where is the bicycle now? I'm keeping it. I need it. I like it. Obviously, he's not sorry.
That's right.
The way he will show he is sorry is to return the property to the owner. The same way, if a person has damaged my name, accusing me falsely, and now wants forgiveness, surely I would want him to backpedal, to now tell people it is not true what I said. This person is innocent.
Yes.
That's most important.
That's hard to do. Most people don't like to do that, to admit they're wrong and, to go back and repair like that.
It is necessary. If a person doesn't want to do that, then you should not have said something false against another in the first instance. But if you did already, this is the honorable way to repair.
That's right.
In short, that is what love of my neighbor means. As you would like people to do to you, you do also to them. This is the law and the prophets.